energy up when we're at game 41 of an 82-game season. We'll move on. Here's Lamar Jackson back from his second COVID stint. Asked yesterday about getting the vaccine.
I got to talk to my team doctors and, try to see how they feel about it. Keep learning as much as I can about it, and we'll go from there.
So you might go for it.
We'll see. Talking to the doctors, we'll see. I feel it's a personal decision. I'm just going to worry about that with my family, keep my feelings to my family and myself.
Bomani, how do you hear that?
What is so personal about this decision, or is this is a personal decision as a way to stop people from saying you sound stupid right now? Because most of the times when people come with these explanations of not taking the vaccine, whether they like it or not, they wind up sounding stupid. Now, I have no idea what is going through his mind because he says it is this personal decision, but I do know this. If you're not going to get vaccinated, yeah, that's your call. But he be out there. Like, you follow him on social media. It ain't like he's some dude that's not vaccinated and out taking every precaution. No, he's out there and he ain't got a mask on while he's out there doing it. And to me, you got to pick one. Either take this vaccine or live a life of the utmost caution. As ridiculous as Kirk Cousins sounded last week, at least he did say, well, put me in plexiglass. That does get the point that if you're going to not be vaccinated, you're going to have to take some measure of precaution. If that's what Lamar Jackson wants to do, he better do it that way. Otherwise, I got no choice but to look at you and say you sound ridiculous right now.
Glenn Yates.
He sounds misguided, and he sounds also misdirected. I think that when a man that young says, you got to talk to my doctors, when he's pretty well intelligent about a lot of other things, he's kind of shying away from responsibility that he doesn't want to take. And he's trying to, and I think this is, I don't want to say reasonable, but understandable, is that he's not really trying to deal with this on a public level. And I get why people say it's a personal decision. It's not. I don't need to be an epidemiologist to explain to you how vaccines work and how, viruses get exchanged. But, he just seems like he's a little overwhelmed by answering these questions. And it's really sad that at this point, at this stage on the schedule in America, that guy in that big of a position is still shying away from such an answer.
Well, we've seen enormous names in the sport. And, Sarah, just last week, you recognized the frustration players had with the Players Association and with how the league has moved forward here. How do you hear Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I want to keep that same energy from the last topic, but we're 6+ months into this energy. How can you still say, I got to talk to my team and see how they feel about it? You've already gotten the virus twice. How can you say this is a personal decision when people have been yelling for months about how it's not personal? You're part of a larger community that you are putting at risk. That means immunocompromised that can't get the vaccine. That means children that can't get the vaccine. As we learn more about the Delta variant and how it's disproportionately putting unvaccinated people in hospitals, on respirators, dying, long hauler symptoms, you are not only putting yourself at risk, but your team, your future contract, your coaches, your staff, the fans. This is far from personal. And it's just frustrating, Tony, because I think all of us are feeling as overwhelmed as at any other point in the pandemic because we have the answers now and we're not using them. So to keep using that, I'm going to keep looking into it. I'm going to talk to my doctors and my team. There's nothing more to learn right now about it. We've got billions of people getting it that are safe and helping others by getting it. I don't know what else to say anymore.
Do you believe, and I'll bring Israel Gutierrez in here, that the Ravens are at a competitive disadvantage, or any team with a player who's still saying, I need to look into this and this is a private matter? Israel?
I just believe it creates an extra something, whether it be just discussion among teammates, whether it be the potential of him, sitting out again or having to sit out for an extended period of time. I do believe it can create this sort of waves in the locker room when you've got 90% of the team or 90+% of the team vaccinated and your most important player won't get it, but won't really give you a good reason as to why. And so I don't know what he's saying in that locker room. It doesn't seem like he's hiding a great reason for it. Seems like he's being a little flippant with an action.
Bane.
Yeah, I would just say.
Trust Lamar Jackson to be available for them all year?
I am so sick of talking about vaccines. Let me just say, I am deathly afraid of needles. I do not enjoy this discussion topic. And yet here we are again, because a superstar, Lamar Jackson, who has caught COVID now 2 times, has expressed that it's a personal choice, which is the way of saying I'm not going to answer you about whether or not I'm going to get vaccinated. He's used the line of I'm going to talk to team doctors and make sure I have all the information and get educated. And it just is very frustrating that we're here again talking about a needle, something that causes fear in my heart and in my, I'm sweating right now. But I'll tell you what, I'm sweating and I'm vaccinated because I did my research and I know that that's what you have to do in order to try to get this virus under control. So the question is, can his teammates trust that he'll be available? It's hard for me to believe that Lamar Jackson saw what happened to the Ravens last year because of COVID, saw what happened to his own body now twice, because both times he said he's had bad symptoms and has had a terrible experience with COVID. He's seen this happen and is like, still, I'm not entirely sure about what to do moving forward. I don't think I'm going to get vaccinated. It is very frustrating. And I can imagine, because I'm not even his teammate, if I were, that would be very frustrating because 90% of this team is vaccinated. And if Lamar Jackson were to, God forbid, catch another variant or COVID again or whatever is happening with this awful virus, it's possible that he will miss games. And that's not something that you want to have to plan for if it's something that could be prevented by the player himself. So if I were his teammate, I would certainly be frustrated. And clearly I'm frustrated that we're still talking about this.
The thing that's frustrating to me is you hear him saying, I'm going to continue or keep learning as much as I can about it. What are we at, like 7 months where this thing's been available? Like probably longer than that since the information and the research has been out there. How many life decisions does it take that long to make? I mean, maybe picking a life partner, maybe buying a house. Like this, and it's the whole personal decision thing, I think, is like just overstated and people just kind of let that go. It's not a personal decision when it's affecting everybody else on your team, when it's affecting your coworkers. And so it's also not like when you tell me it's a personal decision, like I want to hear, or you tell me you're still doing the thinking or the research, I want to hear maybe a little bit of that thinking, maybe a little bit. I'm not saying like I need to hear everything, but just give me a little bit to see if it makes sense, because otherwise we're just going to all look at you and be like, what are you doing? And I think part of it is, you know, the young and healthy, untouchable superstar, like feels like nothing can harm him. But I think we know by now that's not the point.
Yeah, I am glad you guys both zeroed in on the it's a personal decision disclaimer, which is what we're hearing not just from Lamar Jackson, but from a few players around the NFL, a few athletes, people generally are saying, instead of explaining their rationale or the research they've done, their excuse now is that it's a personal decision. And as Izzy said, it's not. Like, there's just no both sidesing this. This is not a personal thing. When you wake up every morning and you read about how this disease, positive tests, deaths are rising around the country in large part because people aren't vaccinated. There's also undeniably some privilege associated with this. Like, it's not a coincidence that the only players who are coming out and saying, I'm not going to get it, or it's a personal decision, are superstars, right? Because if you're on an NFL team and you're not a superstar, you're getting the shot, because otherwise you're gone.
Should the Jets be worried about Zach Wilson?
Yes and no. So here's the thing. Zach Wilson, the Jets' #2 overall pick that they took in the draft, is their starting quarterback. And apparently he's been looking not great, putting that delicately. And then Robert Saleh, their head coach, said it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I think it's important for Jets fans to know that it's going to be bad. If you can understand that it's going to be bad, you can prepare yourself for just how bad it is. It's important to not be reactionary in this situation, because Zach Wilson is your guy. You don't really have another guy. So if the head coach is saying this guy's going to take a little bit of time, trust me, we're working on it, you have to do so, because if they become too reactionary and they start calling for him to be benched, or there's no other option. So all you've got to do is just sit somewhere comfortable, make yourself at home, and just prepare to kind of ride out at least the very beginning. And I know that might be difficult because your new head coach is new. It's also scary because you got a new quarterbacks coach and a new offensive coordinator. First timers across the board. It's very scary, and I could see why it would be hard for fans like, let's say, Jets fans to calm down and let this play out the way that it's going.
Let's talk this. Jets coach Robert Saleh said rookie quarterbacks like Zach Wilson can struggle in their first year. It can get worse before it gets better. And he said, look at Peyton Manning. So he put it all out there. The stats of Zach Wilson in camp, Sarah Spain, I'm sure you've seen them. They're not great, but it's camp. What is Saleh telling us here? That Wilson's going to struggle or that he's going to be a Hall of Famer?
Yeah, today alone again, 10 for 17, 6 sacks and interception. Obviously, way too early to know how that translates to games, but I think it's smart. I'm buying saying this, not because you set an expectation that he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but you let people know, even if he sucks this year, I want you to believe. And I'd rather have that set up than expect him to come out guns blazing, especially because they got no other options. This is their guy. They've set up the team for him to start right away, and it could be ugly, and he's just saying, hold your horses on deciding whether that's ugly forever or just right now.
Yeah, but we make quick decisions on quarterbacks now. If you can go throw 25 interceptions your rookie year, you're probably going to struggle. You might not get, the automatic starting job the following year even. You might not even be on the same team, Josh Rosen. So I do think, you probably look at this and say, Coach, don't put that kind of pressure on me in New York. I'm already the surprise number 2 pick here. I don't need to be compared to Peyton Manning.
That's interesting. Bomani, do you think Peyton Manning would have been given the same leash now that he was 20 years ago? That's an interesting point, Israel. Bomani, how do you hear Saleh?
Yeah, well, the big thing is if Peyton Manning played now, he wouldn't throw those 28 interceptions. It's a completely different game. You can't use that as the reference. If you want to use the reference of, wow, that guy couldn't hit the broadside of the barn and now he looks great, just get more modern and go with Josh Allen. Like, if you looked at the worst of Josh Allen from year one, what he did last year was miraculous. That's the guy to point to if you want to make this example.
I'm selling this, but it's way on brand for this guy. I mean, Manning literally just went into the Hall of Fame in Canton, so it's not like this is not completely grandiose. We're also talking about the same guy that wanted to take a police escort through downtown New York in a rainstorm to watch the Knicks play ball and jam up all the traffic. This guy goes way big for no reason.
Whoa! Listen to Clinton Yates.
Personal grievances.
Were you stuck in that traffic, Clinton? It seems like you're a little bit hurt.
No, but you don't do that. Come on,
I
man.
agree.
You guys have been in town a day and you're jamming up downtown traffic for the Knicks? That was a Bush League move. We all know that.
Listen, Sarah, this was feisty today. That's not making a ruling on the Luka versus Zion argument or whatever we were having before. It just happens that Israel reps in the preseason. You signing off on reps in the preseason for Saquon Barkley, Israel?
I might be crazy. I might kind of going fan here, but with extreme situation like this where he's had a couple of knee injuries and he hasn't been on the field enough, I kind of want to see it a little bit. Not a lot, but I kind of want to see a little bit on the field just to get him going, just to prove he can do it a little bit before we get to the regular season.
Bomani?
Isn't that what practice is for? Like, if you need somebody to hit him, you want it to be somebody that you pay, rather than somebody who's trying to figure out how to get a salary from somebody else. Ain't nobody gonna hit them low in your own practice. They gonna lose their job. Somebody hit them low in a preseason game, they might get a promotion.
Israel, I know it's been a while since you got a FaceTime, but I just want to see you do it in a preseason before we can give it to you. Here, point game FaceTime, Bomani Jones.
Back where I belong, and I love you too. Hey guys, I don't know if you've seen this, but they got a little beef down there in New Orleans. Michael Thomas and the team thought he should have had a surgery earlier. Michael Thomas put something up on Instagram about how he protected their reputation by not saying anything. And I just want to make this point to everybody out here who's thinking about putting something on Instagram that is entirely comprised of words. That ain't what it's for. That thing is a picture of a camera. You're supposed to put pictures there. Everybody thinks they got something wise to say on Instagram. Nobody wise says those things on Instagram. Like, I just want to let you know that right